Welcome to the Nursing Post podcast, all nursing all the time with Ashley Moore and Rosa Horsley. Today's topic is controversial, but we both feel that it's necessary to discuss. Remember, our goal is always to inform and to start conversation.
Teen pregnancy is also known as adolescent pregnancy, and this starts at age 10 and it ends at age 19. Since teen pregnancy is substantially higher in the United States compared to other industrialized nations, we thought it would be, fun to go digging around and find out why. And you may be wondering why this is even a problem that needs to be discussed. And of course, we are happy to share that with you, which I think the statistics alone will cover that and kind of paint a good picture as to why it's a problem and steps that can be taken to help mitigate teen pregnancy.
So some of the statistics we found also included socioeconomical impacts and disparities. United States teen pregnancies dropped about 7% from 2016. In 2017, a total of 194,377 babies were born to women aged 15 to 19. Parenthood is the leading reason that teen girls drop out of school. Less than 2% of teen moms earn a college degree by age 30, and more than 50% of teen mothers never graduate from high school. Teen pregnancies are 2.5 times higher in African American and Hispanic teen girls compared to white teen girls. About 25% of teen moms have a second child within 24 months of their first baby. And more than half of all mothers on welfare had their first child as a teenager. 2/3 of families started by a young unmarried mother are poor. Girls who become pregnant before the age of 18 years are more likely to experience violence within a marriage or partnership. At least 10 million unattended pregnancies occur each year among girls aged 15 to 19 years in developing countries. Complications during pregnancy and childbirth are the leading cause of death for 15 to 19-year-old girls globally. Of the estimated 5.6 million abortions that occur each year among girls aged 15 to 19 years, 3.9 are unsafe, contributing to maternal death, morbidity, and lasting health problems. Adolescent mothers face higher risks of eclampsia, puerperal endometriosis, and systematic infections compared to women aged 20 to 24 years old. Babies of adolescent mothers face higher risks of low birth weight, premature delivery, and severe neonatal conditions.
So that's a lot going on for somebody that's aged 15 to 19.
It's already hard. You know what I mean? Being in high school is hard.
Yep.
Just without being pregnant. And then when you add all of that on top of it, I can imagine, because I would be considered a statistic if we were basing our lives off of this number.
Right.
I can tell you it's super hard. And I'm sure it's super hard today.
Oh, and I can't imagine, especially with social media. We didn't really have social media when we were in high school. And now, my husband calls them keyboard commandos. Everybody is 10 foot tall and bulletproof behind their little keyboard where they have all these opinions. When we were in high school, it was very much you had to say what you were going to say. And if I'm very much the type of person that if you can't stand up and say it, then don't type it.
Don't say it at all in any form or fashion.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm the person, if I say it behind your back, you best believe I can say it to your face. And if I can, I won't say it. There are some risk factors that are associated with teen pregnancy. Living in poverty, having limited maternal educational achievement, having a mother who gave birth before the age of 20, coming from a single parent household, living in a home with frequent family conflict, early sexual activity, the use of drugs and alcohol, having a low self-esteem, and sometimes a teen's race and ethnicity can be a risk factor for teen pregnancy.
Well, we've already established that for Black and Hispanic, they have 2 times as many teen pregnancies. There are complications, of course, with the mother just like Rosa was saying earlier, you have eclampsia, pubertal endometriosis, systemic infections, and maternal death. For the baby, it's preterm delivery. That's automatically associated with a low birth weight, severe neonatal conditions, and infant mortality. All those go together. So the big thing that we want to do is focus on prevention, obviously, and education. And teens had fewer babies in 2010 than any year since the mid 1940s. So we're working in the right direction. So that is a positive sign. I do want to touch on a different perspective for teen pregnancy that I don't think you hear a lot about. And because it's not widely discussed, it was a little harder to find some information, but we really want to get a male perspective.
How does it affect them too?
Yes. How does teen pregnancy affect the boys? Because it takes a male and a female to make a baby.
Yes.
80% of young men 15 to 19 years old reported that they would be very upset, or at least a little upset, if they were to get a female pregnant. That was from the CDC, that they would be very upset or a little upset if they were to get a female pregnant. It struck me as odd because they didn't say if they were to become a father. It said that they would be upset
if they got someone
if
else
they
pregnant.
got a female pregnant, not if they were to become a father. That struck me as odd.
Well, maybe the assumption is already made in the statement. Like
I'm
if you got someone pregnant, like if you were a male and you got someone pregnant, naturally you would be the father.
Right. So I was just kind of like, it just seemed very cold and indifferent the way the statistics were laid out versus the female.
I can see that.
And that's in my opinion. You can read the CDC website yourself if you want to gather your own thoughts and opinions. Teen fathers attended fewer years of school and are less likely to graduate from high school, just like teen mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Young men are also affected disproportionately by sexually transmitted infections. Children who don't live with their fathers are 5 times more likely to be poverty-stricken than children who live with both parents at home. 8 out of 10 teen dads don't marry the mother of their child, which, I mean, I'm not necessarily surprised by that.
I'm not going to support that
marriage because of a baby.
You know,
me either.
Sometimes decisions that are made as a child are not the decisions you would make as an adult.
Well, I would say that is probably true for most things. Young fathers are more likely to have economic and employment challenges and are more often economically disadvantaged than adult fathers. And despite the stereotypes, there is increasing evidence that teen fathers do want to be and are involved with their children, and they're not always included. And this is more than just financially.
Yeah, paying child support is not being a
involved.
Parent to your child.
Right. An unmarried father has rights and responsibilities concerning custody, visitation, and child support. However, an unmarried father needs to take legal action to obtain these rights and responsibilities and must sign an acknowledgement of paternity form. So we make it harder for young men, these young gentlemen, to be involved with their child.
Mm-hmm.
Like women automatically, well, and I guess to a certain point, we know it's yours. You grew it.
But it's pretty hard for a mother not to say that's my child.
Right. And so for a male to be involved, it actually, he has to jump through hoops, which I don't know. I guess you want to make sure that they are the father. And so this is where prevention and education really go together, because there's nothing new or groundbreaking. It's literally just going to take an empire to help with teen pregnancy, because it's going to take federally funded programs that help with sex education. That's
everything in medicine, though.
Yep.
Prevention and education.
Exactly. So affordable family planning outreach in communities, especially communities that have high teen birth rates. That seems to make very logical sense.
I agree.
Developing clinical guidelines for teens, specifically teens, that are safe and effective uses of birth control. And so if they're not going to practice abstinence, which is what we should encourage, then we need to make sure that we have good guidelines. And what's good for a woman that's 25 years old and married or in a relationship, or, she knows she's sexually active, and what she wants and what she doesn't want is a little bit different than
That's
maybe
a lot
somebody
of
that's
bit
16 years
difference.
old.
Yeah, it's a lot of bit difference.
One of the things we can do is recognize what they call LARC, LARC, which is long-acting reversible contraceptives like implants and IUDs that are safe, effective choices for teens. Giving a child a pill and telling them that they have to remember to take it every day may not be effective, especially if their parents don't know that they're on the birth control pill.
Yes.
So then they are on their own to remember to take this pill every day. They're still a kid. They're a young adult, but they're still, what I would consider a kid. That's a lot to remember.
Oh, and at this age, they're forming themselves still.
Yes.
They're still trying to figure out who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they have that mentality of, being Superman.
Right.
They think nothing will happen to them.
Right. But if they have an IUD, or if they have, like a Nexlon implant or something like that, well, then all of a sudden it's in there. They don't have to worry about forgetting it. It's there. It's taken care of. Doesn't protect them from sexually transmitted diseases or infections, but it protects them from having a child at a young age. And so that's at least one step in the right direction.
I agree.
Having parents talk with their children about sex, encouraging them not to have sex, and then if they're going to, making sure that they are on birth control so that they don't have children. And the risk, if they do have a child, you're at risk for, what's called eclampsia or preeclampsia, explaining to them what that is, or having a healthcare worker explain to them what that is. There's so many different things that you could go into with that. There are books for this one subject to help parents have that conversation, and then explaining, sexually transmitted infections and what they mean, and they're not all curable, and some you have for life.
Some of them are not your friends.
You might love them today, but if you don't love them tomorrow, but he left you with something forever,
yeah,
it's a bad spot to be in.
No bueno.
Exactly.
No bueno. I think when I was doing some of the research for this, I love the statistics, I like to inform people, but then I thought, oh my gosh, I was a statistic, and at that time myself, and, I thank God I had very supportive parents and a husband, but even during that, I still didn't know my rights. I still didn't know where to go for help, where to look,
right,
anything like that. I'll leave this story really brief and get on to where you guys can find help. I was 18, married, and in high school. I had my daughter when I was 18. I was not the only pregnant teen at that school. There was another female who happened to be white, and then me, who happens not to be, or is with a bunch of other stuff. And I was actually forced to go to what they have called here like a Laurel program, which is basically a high school for teen pregnancies and teen moms. However, the other young lady was able to stay and attend the same high school. That's what made me kind of think about rights. What rights do you have on the educational system? What rights do you have as a pregnant mom, or, a teen being pregnant, or a teen mom? So I am very big for people being advocates of themselves, and you can't really advocate for yourself or for anybody else if you just don't know anything. So I think people should know about Title IX of the educational amendments that were passed in 1972. And in that amendment, it states that equal educational opportunities in all publicly funded educational institutions for all students, regardless of their sex. So in my situation, I didn't feel that I got equal treatment.
Because you didn't?
Because I didn't. I mean, that's just the way it is. And had I known, I think, about this at that age, I probably would have fought harder than I did. But this is why I want to bring this to the attention of not only teens who are pregnant, but parents as well, because my parents didn't know.
Well, and I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of this stuff.
This is a federal agency. It's an Office of Civil Rights of the U.S. Department of Education. So this is an amendment and it is law. Schools are prohibited from discriminating against students because of childbirth, false pregnancy, abortion, recovery from these conditions, as well as based on marital status. A school may not exclude students from extracurricular activities. If pregnant or parenting students enter an alternative school or program, the choice must be voluntarily, and the school and program must be comparable quality of that was offered at a comprehensive high school. And I can tell you
It's
it
not
was night and
comparable.
day.
Well, and I don't care. I think it would be somebody would be very hard pressed to find a school and an alternative school that have both the same quality of education and have this option. I would love for somebody to say, no, my county has they have this school or that school. This is alternative. This is where you go if you're pregnant and, you want to be somewhere separate and that they are just as good as a regular school. I don't believe it.
I can tell you I did not get comparable education. A school may ask a pregnant student to obtain a doctor's note stating that they are able to take part in school activities or PE classes only if the school requires a doctor's note from all students who have conditions that require medical care.
Right.
If students have to miss school for reasons related to pregnancy or childbirth, the time missed must be considered an excused leave of absence for as long as deemed medically necessary by the student's doctor. And when the student returns to school, they must be reinstated to the status that they were held at prior to when the leave began. And if the school provides special services such as at-home tutoring for other students who miss some school because of temporary disabilities, it must do the same for students who miss school because of pregnancy.
This all makes complete sense.
I can tell you I did not receive a tutor. Recipients of federal education funding are required to designate Title IX coordinators to ensure that schools comply with the law. If a student suspects that they have experienced treatment in violation of Title IX, they may want to contact their Title IX coordinator to determine how to proceed. Let me tell you, I say this all the time, there's a Rosa before Christ and then the Rosa after Christ. So when I was a teenager, there was a Rosa before Christ.
I only know the Rosa after.
And even at 18, I fought like hell to get out of that Laurel program and be able to transfer back to my high school so I could graduate with my class. And even then, they gave me hell for it. And I told them, since I had turned 18 my senior year, that it's no longer my parents' choice, even though I had my parents' backing.
Right.
It was no longer my parents' choice, and that they didn't have a choice but to accept me back. But the fact of the matter is, if I was not such an advocate for myself and fight for fairness, period, I probably would have been at that Laurel program until I graduated.
And see, this is where I guess my naivety, or however you would say that, would kick in. Like, I don't understand what the issue is.
I didn't understand the issue because
the
other teen mom didn't have to leave school.
We had several that were pregnant while I was in high school, and I didn't, I knew them, but I didn't know their business personally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But they were just in regular classes. It was just, they were pregnant.
Numerically, based on my age, I fit into the statistics. Right. I was married. I was 18. I was still in high school, but I was still a teen mom, period, point blank and simple. And had I known about Title IX,
you would have been all over that.
Girl, you know me so well. You know me so well. So I felt like this was...
You would have been up in there with a piece of paper saying, you see this right here?
I'd be like, let me call the news. Let me call 911. You know what I'm saying? I need to borrow your phone. I would... Yep. If you know me, then you would know had I known this back then. So I want to educate and empower
Yeah.
all females to know that these are your rights. And if you're not getting this assistance from your school, fight for it
Right.
because it's your right.
And there are other rights. And a great website that you can go to is for Planned Parenthood, and it is plannedparenthood.org.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be linked in our references. Because if you're pregnant, you have 3 options. You can become a parent, give birth, raise a child. You can get an abortion and end the pregnancy, or you can have the pregnancy, go through, have the baby, and give it up for adoption. And so those are your options.
And I think, unfortunately, Planned Parenthood gets a bad rap that it's always associated with abortions. And that's not the case.
No, because
it's called Planned Parenthood.
They actually have classes that you can take so that way you can learn things like how to take care of a child and things like that, which I think we really need something for the boys that are
as
parents
well
that is specific to
males.
Exactly.
I agree.
I think that would be a huge service to be able to offer.
Another good place for information, is your local health department.
Mm-hmm.
For medical advice, for nutritional advice. They do have a reproductive health unit. It's a teen program about sex ed. And they also have WIC services.
Yes.
Which is nutrition for newborns until they are 5 years old.
Yeah.
And if you qualify, it's definitely a service that you should take advantage of.
Right. It helps pay for formula,
milk,
foods,
cheese, the necessities.
Like so it stands for women, infants, and children.
Absolutely.
What we want to finish up this episode with is what we would call safe haven laws. This is really important. Rosa's going to go into the specifics, but say you're a parent, you're a teenager, and you have a baby, and you, by some miracle, kept this a secret, and nobody knows that you have had a baby.
It happens every day.
This happens. It's amazing to me because there was no hiding my pregnancy. But there are women, girls that do this. And say that you were able to do this. Nobody, your parents didn't know you were pregnant. Your friends didn't know. Maybe you had one other person that knew you were pregnant, and you end up having a child, Lord knows, at home or wherever.
By yourself. Yeah.
And you're like, what do I do with this child? There are options.
Oh my gosh, that breaks my heart. I think all of us have turned on the news at one point and have seen news stories about babies being wrapped in trash bags and left in dumpsters.
Yes.
And it's just like, why?
And I think it's because people don't understand that this is really something you can do.
So safe haven laws, all 50 states, even the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, have what they call safe haven laws. And what this law does is it protects newborns from endangerment by allowing the parent to not criminally abandon their child. Each state does have its own limitations in regards to age. So you can't take a child that's 5 years old and then leave them at one of these safe havens.
Right.
So you'll have to check your state and see, what your age requirement is. So for instance, we live in the state of Virginia. A parent can relinquish a newborn baby up to 14 days old to any on-duty staff member at a 24-hour medical facility or hospital, a fire or EMS provider, and the parent must hand the infant over to a provider. They just can't leave the baby there. And from there, the provider has to immediately notify the Department of Child and Family Services. And if you're interested, if you're in a situation and you really don't know what to do, contact Planned Parenthood, contact an adult, and before you leave your child anywhere that's unprotected, please call 1-888-510-2229 or just text the word Safe Haven to 313131 to learn more about your state's safe haven law.
And then that way you're relieved of any duty to take care of that child, and the child will get taken into custody by the state. So that way it can be taken care of.
Both you will be safe and your baby will be safe.
And so it's kind of a win-win, which is why this is out here. This is why it exists. You know, maybe somebody doesn't want to go through the whole social services, putting their child up for adoption. It's just too much.
Having children, period, is emotional.
And so this is an option where you can do this.
Everybody's safe.
Exactly.
You can find our references on our website, thenursingpostpodcast.com. You can subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform, and you can leave your thoughts and comments there too. Thanks for listening to The Nursing Post.